The Last of Us Part 1. The acclaimed cinematic masterpiece of a zombie survival game that single-handedly won Sony the 7th generation of video game consoles. The Last of Us ended up becoming simply the formula for Sony exclusive games in the future, and while I wouldn't really say that's a good thing, it shows the amount of impact culturally and in the gaming world that this game had. And while it isn't a very unique game now, given how many games tried to replicate the exact same formula, The Last of Us was one of a kind when it released in 2013, and was the reason why Sony outsold the Xbox 360. The game's public critical acclaim was more than enough to push it to worldwide stardom, sparking the release of a 2014 remaster for the PlayStation 4 and a 2022 remake on PlayStation 5, which is what I'm going to be reviewing in this video. I'm going to be taking a deep dive at every single aspect of this game, from the gameplay, the visuals, the story, to music, everything from top to bottom to answer the question of, is The Last of Us really that great of a game? Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a deep dive in to the most acclaimed video game of all time, The Last of Us. Yeah, you do a lot of walking, and scavenging. And shooting. Wow, you do a lot in this game actually, cool. Yeah, the general gameplay loop of The Last of Us consists of a lot of walking, running, scavenging, and shooting, which makes sense given it's a fucking zombie survival game. It works really well, although if I do have one gripe, I would say it does feel like you do too much walking sometimes. It gives you time to take in and appreciate the environment, which I do like, but there's segments like this one on screen where we're just kind of walking for 2 or 3 minutes, not really doing anything else, and there's not a hell of a lot to collect along the way either, so you are literally just walking. However, most of these just continuous walking segments have dialogue to interrupt them to make it more engaging, which also further immerses you, so you know what, it's fine.
Up there, that'll get us to the north tunnel.
How are we supposed to reach that?
Just give me a minute.
And as you probably guessed, The Last of Us is a very cinematic game, so one thing that I can appreciate greatly is when it seamlessly transitions from gameplay straight to cutscene just like this. The same applies vice versa as well when they transition from cutscene to gameplay. It does help to immerse the story a little bit more, and I think it overall enhances the experience, which is something that the original game couldn't quite do as well as the PS5 version does. There's also interesting gameplay mechanics like the generators and the garages that you have to actually press the button and yank to almost make it seem like you are doing the motion. You're not just pressing one button, you are the character putting in the effort to do this.
How do you know they're coming? 2 of our guys died trying to take Tess out. I guarantee that she and Joel are on their way here right now to get Robert.
No, what gives you that impression? Yeah, that's another thing as well, the enemy dialogue in this game feels very real because they're saying things that are actually relevant to what's going on rather than just saying whatever the fuck enemies usually say in games.
You fucking atrocious, my nigga. Why the fuck did you get your pissed out, you twat? Bro, that was the easiest win you could've got. You fucking just shit. Don't ever play this game again, you fucking stinkers. You're all shit.
Whoa, look. Fireflies. I mean, real fireflies.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I do believe this game has a little bit too many just random walking and scavenging segments, but it kind of overrides that with the fact that it has these little details, these little character moments that make the game feel much more real. Another rather immersive mechanic is sneaking around, because you actually have to gradually press the button. You cannot just press one button which makes you sneak, you actually have to make a legitimate gradual effort to sneak around, again further immersing you into the experience. And then, in certain instances, when you get caught, you will actually have to spam the square button, because while Joel is fighting for his life, you're fighting the fucking square button. You spend the first half hour or so of the game inside, secluded, and trapped in the quarantine zone, and the first time you see the outside world is here. It's bright, sudden, beautiful, and if you've never seen it before, when you first see it in-game, it's like, whoa. Indoor areas in this game are generally much darker, secluded, cramped, and honestly quite claustrophobic. Moments like this, and a lot of them are filled with spores, making it even more mortifying, and completely run down. They're destroyed, and broken, abandoned, and slowly but surely rotting away. Indoor areas in The Last of Us are actually much more dangerous than outdoor ones because they're dark, cramped, rotting away, and filled with infected. places where humans used to be able to call home, places where people could be cozy and safe, are now even more dangerous than the outside world. The world has been completely flipped upside down, a complete 180 of what people used to know 20 years ago. They have to completely readapt what they understand about survivability. There's a lot of very interesting metaphorical significance of the way nature seeps back into the buildings, retaking what once was theirs before humans set foot on the earth. For a game that puts such heavy focus on the morals and ethics of humanity and watch as humanity has devolved over the years, it makes a hell of a lot of sense metaphorically to showcase how nature has retaken what was theirs and how it's weird how everything's hauntingly beautiful. It's so devoid of human life, yet so stunning at the same time. It's a quiet, empty, eerie world that is completely devoid of humanity, and yet for some reason that makes it beautiful. It's scary, but it's mesmerizing to witness at the same time. Oh, and I also found what I believe is Clementine's house from the Walking Dead game, which is cool. Okay, quick plot summary. The game starts with Joel and Tess, and there's some kind of weapons deal going on with this girl called Marlene, but eventually it turns into just being an adventure between Joel and Ellie where they're trying to get Ellie to the Fireflies to understand why she's immune. And that's the story. For a while it feels like there isn't really anything going on, to be honest. It's like Joel and Ellie are just kind of doing things, moving towards that final goal, but slowly and surely you can see how the bond is growing between the two of them as the experiences they're having are shaping the relationship they're having. Obviously Joel and Ellie are usually grouped together, but I think it's also really important to separate them and look at their individuals and the way they think as they realise that they are slowly but surely growing into a kind of father-daughter relationship. So I think you do need to really look at them both, and that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take a look at both these characters and see how they react to the way their relationship blossoms. Okay, so let's take a look at Joel first. So I think it's really important to look back at the opening when we're looking at the way Joel and Ellie's relationship forms, because while this opening is obviously very important to not only show the past and show the outbreak as it happened in the moment, showing how everything just became complete anarchy within a matter of hours, I also think it's important to take a look at the relationship between Joel and Sarah, and while we don't see a lot of it, it is important because you can kind of recognise why Joel is almost hesitant to see a piece of Sarah in Ellie later on. And there are reasons for that, not only because of the way the world formed him into a different man, but because he doesn't want to get attached to something that he could so easily lose in this world that is completely devoid of morality and humanity, himself included. Obviously, this is all pretty subjective, it's just my take on things, the way I interpret it, but I think this scene in particular is very important because the way I interpret it is probably very different to how a lot of people interpret it because they don't give us a lot of information, but this is personally what I read into it. I'll show you, and then I'll explain.
I'm good.
You sure?
I said I'm good.
Okay. I'll hold on to it for you.
So, obviously, at a very surface level analysis, we can obviously see how Joel probably doesn't want to be shown it because he doesn't want to be reminded. Not because he wants to forget her necessarily, but because it brings him too many sad and dark thoughts that he just doesn't want to think about it and wants to move on. Because obviously his life has changed, the way he thinks has changed, and that is another thing that is very important. Because I'm going to say this, it might sound a bit crazy, but this is what I'm going to say. I think Joel sees a bit of Ellie in Sarah, okay? That's what I think. I don't think he sees a lot, but I think he sees a spark, and I think at this point in the story he's recognised that. I think we slowly but surely saw how he started to recognise it, but now that he's fully recognised it, he doesn't want to, I guess, risk clinging to something, because even though it's slow and gradual, you can see how he is definitely starting to see that soul in Ellie, something that he hasn't seen in 2 decades, and he doesn't want to see it again because the world is so rotten and wretched and full of death around every corner that clinging to someone, in my mind at least, the way I interpret it, is just too risky in this broken world. And then this scene that happens in an act not long after that one, I think really there's so many emotions you can pick out of this. I'm going to show you and then again explain my take on it.
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Okay, time for some more crazy wild takes. I think Joel is scared for multiple reasons, right? Okay, the first reason is obviously he doesn't want her to die. Simply, okay, again, surface level, he doesn't want her to die. Okay, she's a kid, he doesn't want her to die. Second reason, he's scared of attachment. I think that's another thing. When Ellie asks what you're so afraid of, I think that's what's going through his head. He does not want that light of Sarah that he sees in Ellie to flourish any further. I think he wants it to, but at the same time really doesn't, because if he feels that way about a human being again and then loses it, it's going to break him. Okay, it's going to break him more than he already is. After 2 decades of living in this miserable shithole, it's going to get even worse. And I think that is what he's so afraid of. He does not want to go through that pain again. And the other thing, I think, is that because he recognizes the fact that he's become such a dangerous man, he doesn't trust himself to care for someone anymore.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter.
See, this is where Naughty Dog shines. I think you've really got to pay attention to the facial expressions here, because Joel's in denial at this point, I think. You can tell by the way his voice gets a bit cracky, and the way his jaw's moving, I think, is a good way of describing it. You can tell he's in denial. He sees that spark, and because of the way she's talking to him, he's recognizing that it's growing, but he doesn't want to accept it because he doesn't want to feel that way again. But he is. And of course, as obvious as it is, in this scene, not this scene in particular, but the one before, Ellie is now clinging to a fatherly connection that she hasn't felt in years. And she doesn't want to lose it as much as Joel is fighting to not let it become him. But it is, whether he likes it or not. And he does grow to like it, as we're shown. He cares a lot. And I think this moment as well helps, because Ellie's caring for him now. You know, and then he feels a duty. It's all these things that are building to form this bond. And I think this in particular, when Joel is pretty much on his deathbed at this point, it is so important for him to recognise that they're caring for one another. And he owes it to her to save her in that final moment in the ending. I'm not going to go too deep into the ending itself, because I already did a separate video. But I think it's so important to take a look at these scenes and recognise how Joel, while in denial of how much he cares for Ellie, at this point he's accepted that there is a bond there, and he's got to accept it. And it's scenes like this that show just how much Joel has grown over the course of the game, because on a replay I didn't realise how hardened and harsh he is, like for the first half of the game, and how he's kind of dismissive towards Ellie for a while. He's not a nice person, but as he slowly started to build this bond, something that is not easy to come by in a world like this, he's feeling emotions that have just haunted him for so long, but as he's feeling them again, he's realizing how much he needs to cherish them, because in this world there isn't a hell of a lot you can cherish, so you gotta cling to what you can, even if he was fearful of it for so long. Anyhow, this is going to wrap up my video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing down below. I would really appreciate it. I think as I'm publishing this video, I am 1 sub away from 1.8k, so if you can help me reach that, you are so awesome. Anyway, yeah, The Last of Us, 11 years later, what do I think? I'd give this game a 9 out of 10. I think it is still a phenomenal game. Can't fucking speak. Phenomenal game. Is it a masterpiece? 10 out of 10? No. All games have problems, and I'm not saying that because, you know, I never give out 10 out of 10s because every game has problems. I just don't think this game is quite as good as everyone says, but it is still a fantastic game, absolutely. So, to answer the question, is The Last of Us really that good? No, but only in the sense that it isn't a 10 out of 10 flawless masterpiece. It's got problems. The gameplay is pretty sound. I mean, the story could be a little bit better. There are things that I would change, things that I would fix. But overall, this is an emotionally complex, morally complex, heartfelt, emotional, and beautiful story, visually and in its craft. The way everything connects, the way the gameplay links to the experience, and how you feel like you are there. Anyway, I've been Sam. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, leave a like, subscribe, all that shit. Follow me on Twitter, bollocks, whatever. Anyway, I will see you in the next one. See you later.